Oh,
How you
hello
doing,
there.
buddy?
Nice. Is that a rubber band gun?
Yeah.
I wish we had our shirt, our show shirt.
Oh,
Yeah.
the shoot your eye out kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. What is that? That's like
A rifle.
that's a revolver rifle
Oh, there you go.
right down the barrel. Make my day.
Hey, we'll start it. We'll start it with him. He can tell you about his guns.
Meet the Pressers with Matt Mallory and Klint Macro. Brought to you by Public Safety and Education and the Trigger Pressers Union.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Matt Mallory, and this is my esteemed co-host, Klint Macro. This is Meet the Pressers, which is a safe place for trigger pressers to talk about guns, training, self-defense, with an occasional product review, blowing things up, yada, 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 and with a mixture of faith and political activism added in. Klint, why don't you go ahead and introduce our awesome guest today?
Well, our special guest today is Representative Aaron Bernstine's son. How you doing, buddy? What do you got there? What are you aiming at the camera there?
This was a squirt gun.
Is that a 32 caliber?
It's a squirt gun.
Oh, it's a water caliber.
Yeah, so that you just kind of point it where you're looking.
But the trigger fell off.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Now it's just a regular toy gun. So we're working hard in the office today, and we have a lot of guns here in the office. We have this thing here too, and what's this? The rifle.
It is.
There you go.
It's a revolving rifle.
Well, all right, I'll send him over so we can talk about some other stuff. How's that, guys?
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Good to have you on the show, buddy.
Nice meeting you.
You're the 10th legislative district, correct?
That's correct. Yep. So cover parts of Beaver, Butler, and Lawrence County. Good God-fearing folks out here, strong Second Amendment area, and really appreciate the work that you guys do in getting the information out to other gun lovers.
Well, we're trying. If all of us do our part, we can get some things done. That's sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
you can see.
Is that a 50 or a, oh my goodness.
Oh wow, that's shooting some real ordnance there.
The cancel culture is probably going to be all over me today. So
That's all right.
All right, let me jump back on this. Thank you.
They're all over everybody.
That is crazy big. Look at that thing. Yeah. Hey,
Thank you.
got a good sight picture there, don't you?
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
He is. Holy.
So one of the pieces of legislation that you have coming out is the constitutional carry bill. It has a number now, does it not?
It does, yeah. I anticipate that legislation to run sometime during the summer. And we're really focused on making sure that we're protecting people's Second Amendment rights right now. Always have been, but especially now, guys. I think, we have some real issues going on in Washington, D.C. with some of the things that the ultra left, the super liberals are coming out with.
Yeah.
For some reason, they continue to disrespect our Constitution. And here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we have to do everything to make sure that we're protecting our citizens in order to have them, the ability for them to continue to exercise their Second Amendment right.
Well, essentially right now with the opioid crisis and with the COVID, call it a crisis. I mean, whether it's real or not, or, maybe ginned up a bit by the governor, it's still a crisis for the average citizen. And right now with section 6107, we can't carry a gun off of our property without having a license to carry, with some very, very specific exceptions there. So this legislation would fix all that, correct?
It would. And as you know, one of the positive things is that hasn't been enforced. It doesn't mean it's not on the books,
Right.
but it hasn't been enforced. And, that's something that is very important. We work very closely with our law enforcement on those issues. The truth is that right now, and I'm going to talk about another issue if I could,
Please.
because it kind of all folds into that, is we have an opportunity. We passed in the House of Representatives as well as the Pennsylvania State Senate legislation, or a constitutional amendment, I'm sorry, not legislation, it's actually technically a resolution, that what this would do is it would basically revoke the ability for the governor to indefinitely continue those actions. So he would have to come to the legislature, work with us, and collaboratively work together if there's a state of emergency. The consistent states of emergency that are out there by this governor, I think, are harmful to the Constitution. It was not the spirit in which it was originally written. And I think that it's very important that people go out and vote yes on the constitutional amendments to revoke the governor's extreme powers. Yes on those constitutional amendments in this primary election. Now, I know some people that are watching this may not be Republican or Democrat. They could be independents, they could be libertarian, they could be who knows what. All of these, now they're not typically used to voting in primary elections because they don't have anything to vote for. You have something to vote for on these ballot initiatives now. We need people to go out to vote yes on these amendments, or on these constitutional amendments that'll be on this upcoming primary ballot.
Yeah, the wording that's on the ballot itself is a little bit tricky, and I'm sure that was that was probably very calculated.
You're 1,000% right. And what actually happened with this is the Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, as well as the Secretary of State, basically tried to take a bunch of legal jargon, piece it together, make it so it was unattractive to vote for. It's very important, though, that people go out and see through that facade and that smoke and mirrors and what was done by the Attorney General as well as the former Secretary of State in order to go out and make sure that we're voting yes. Liberty people ought to be voting yes on these constitutional amendments. And there's two of them. Both of them ought to be a yes.
Excellent. Excellent. It is important for people to recognize, even if they're not affiliated with a party, they can go out and vote on these particular initiatives that are on the ballot.
Yeah, I don't know if I said this again, but make sure we're voting yes for these things.
Yes. Yes, most certainly. So with the constitutional carry bill, constitutional carry is a thing all over the country. And some people are, I'm sure most of our audience here are familiar with what it is. But just to recap, this is not a constitutional amendment. What this is it's actually adhering to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, so I'm going to break it down in a very simple term if I could. I think it's important that people understand on a very basic level what it is. So when you go in to purchase a firearm, and if you're able to purchase that firearm, you've obviously went through those background checks, right? We know that. Those background checks, and that's a whole nother issue that we could talk about PICs and NICs, and I think we could have a 24-hour show on that one.
Yes.
But in focus right now would be, if you're able to legally own and carry a firearm, you ought not to have go through the additional processes through your sheriff's office in order to get that that concealed carry permit. Let me share with you the dangers of that. Basically, the sheriff, for any reason whatsoever, can say, no, I'm not giving you this. It could be because they don't like your brother. Could be because you were a construction guy that didn't do something right on the house. They could actually do that. Yep. And we've seen that happen, not just in Pennsylvania, but across the nation as well.
New York.
So we wanted to make sure that we're taking that power out of one individual's hands, making sure that law-abiding citizens have the right to carry their concealed carry permit. Now, one of the other things that's very important, and it's interesting, there's been some pushback from gun folks on this, but once we were able to explain it, it makes a lot of sense to them. It's a two-tiered system. So not only, if you only want to carry in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you shouldn't need a permit, okay? But we will still have that permitting process available. And that's because for the people to carry in other states, these other states oftentimes require that license to carry a concealed weapon for those that we have reciprocity with. So let me give you a great example. I myself live in Lawrence County. I'm a stone's throw away from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I carry not only here in Pennsylvania, but also in Ohio when I go there quite often because it's so close. So if I didn't go and get that concealed carry license, Ohio would not permit me to carry in their state. Now, whether that's right or wrong isn't really neither here nor there.
That's another discussion to have.
That's a whole nother discussion, but
Right.
the truth is that you can't do that. So somebody like myself would absolutely want to continue to get a concealed carry permit. Now, somebody else that doesn't carry in other states or maybe in the middle of the state or really just doesn't carry much at all, but they just want to carry right when they're around their area. Not a problem. You shouldn't need to go to that extra process in order to get a concealed carry license.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, all our license to carry does here in Pennsylvania, frankly, is give us the ability to put our shirt over our gun and take our firearm into a mode of conveyance or a vehicle, right?
Yeah, that's about it. And, we already have the rights that we have under the Pennsylvania Constitution. But I think even those that disagree with that, you and I don't, and other people, and I know Matt doesn't, but most people that are watching this really believe that we still have that right. Regardless of that, the normal person believes that one individual, meaning a sheriff in a county, should not have the sole authority to determine whether or not you have the right to carry a weapon. Now, remember, if you do not legally have that right to carry a weapon, right? You're a felon, all those different things that are out there. You've committed violent crimes with weapons. We're not talking about people like that. Those penalties would still be there because they would be illegally owning that gun and illegally carrying that gun.
Right.
This is about law-abiding citizens and protecting them.
You think at some point that the politicians that are anti-gun, their whole goal is to disarm the legal law-abiding citizen, the good people, so that way, tyranny can run amok. I mean, that's the only thing that I'm seeing here, in the sense that, we know that by putting these roadblocks in place, it affects more good people than it does bad people. Because I, as a gun owner, a gun store owner, I don't have people that have felonies come to me and go, "Hey, I robbed a bank and got arrested for it. Can I still get a gun?" I've never had anybody say that. So they know they
do check their magazine capacity before they jack up the bank,
before they rob the bank,
because they don't want to have more than 8 rounds in their magazines in New York, right?
more than 7.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, that the criminals themselves are really good at breaking the law, and they'll continue to break the law.
Right.
This isn't going to do any of those things. But if I could, let me give you a really, and I'll share with you personally, because I got it corrected now. If I could, I carried a license. I carried my gun with an overdue license for about 6-8 months, and didn't even know that my license expired. That could have caused huge problems. Thankfully, I literally just happened to look at it one day and realized that it expired. I was carrying. I mean, there could have been huge consequences. Yeah. I didn't intend to break the law. I was still a law-abiding citizen.
What was your
it's
intent?
Not that I didn't want to go do those things, but it was a mistake that happened. And I think it's important that we're making sure that we're protecting these law-abiding citizens. Oftentimes, these types of gun laws that are in place, the only thing that they do is harm law-abiding citizens.
Right.
So it's important that we do that. Now, on the other side of this, I'll tell you, I am for extreme penalties for those that commit acts of violence with firearms. Mm-hmm. To me, I think we ought to lock those folks away. There should be extreme consequences for those things, because those are the type of people that give folks like us and people that are watching this show, it gives people like us a bad name, a bad rap, and it just doesn't make sense. We don't want guns in the wrong people's hands. We don't want guns committing crimes. We want those to be able to use to prevent crimes.
So you're not for bail reform like we have here in New York, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll share with you. I don't know exactly what you guys have in New York. I would guess I'm not for about anything you guys have in New York.
We call it catch and release, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's like fishing.
What I would say, I mean, that's a whole nother issue on criminal justice reform and some things that need to go on there, because a lot of times what we have is, we're letting violent criminals out of jail, okay, and putting people in there that really ought not to be in there.
Yep.
It just doesn't make sense. I actually have a piece of legislation. It's called Markey's Law here in Pennsylvania that will ensure that violent criminals stay behind bars where they ought to be and where they belong. I think that we really need to differentiate between the two.
Well, too often we see how government officials, people in the court system and law enforcement, district attorney's offices, they don't prosecute the criminals under the laws that we have. That's definitely a problem.
I'm really fortunate here. I live in Beaver County, I represent Beaver County, Lawrence County, and Butler County. We have really good district attorneys here that do a really nice job. I can tell you that some of these district attorneys in other places don't. But they ought to, they're the chief law enforcement officer of a county, is the district attorney. That is literally their role. They're the chief law enforcement officer, the most important law enforcement officer in the entire county. And I encourage people. I think people get so excited. And guys, we've talked a little bit about this offline, but everybody's so excited to go out and vote for Donald Trump against Joe Biden, or Mitt Romney against Barack Obama. Okay, those are fine, and those are great, and those are the sexy things that we talk about. But the most important elections that we have are these local elections. They're the people that is impacting your community.
Mm-hmm.
And a failure of the public to understand that, I think, to be honest with you guys, is a failure of us being the legislature, being people in public life. Klint, Matt, yourself. I think it's our failure where we talk about those things instead of the district attorney that didn't do a great job, instead of the school board that is putting anti-gun pieces in place, instead of those types of things. That's where you have a true impact on your community.
I've come out against, I've come out and made some corrections on ghost guns and stuff. I actually had an interview locally with Channel 3 News about the district attorney and his representation of ghost guns. And he didn't, I don't think he liked it much because he won't have lunch with me.
Well, local elections definitely matter. You look here in Pennsylvania, it impacted the nation when little county councilwoman Bethany Hallam decided to count fraudulent ballots, and therefore it allowed certain people to get into office. And that was a local elected official who had some power at the time of the election, decided which ballots got counted, and it helped to sway the fraud.
It's only 300 votes. It's not a lot, Klint.
But I think you darn well ought to be paying attention to those things. Not you guys know that, but
Sure.
That's really where it is. Get involved. I tell people all the time with these things: time, treasure, and talent. Right? Give candidates your time you believe in. Give them your money. I'm not telling you need to write $50,000 checks. Write representatives. Write people $50 checks, $100 checks, and tell them to go buy signs. And then that's your treasure. And then your talents. Can you help them put a website together? Can you do those different types of things? And I think it's so important that as we work together to move forward the Second Amendment, that's important.
That's great.
I'm kind of mentally scarred now that you referenced Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Obama, and Mitt Romney as all sexy. That's gonna burn.
Listen, I definitely came up with a different word across the board.
I know what you meant. I certainly know what you meant. So back to the constitutional carry. When you first put the memo out, Firearms Owners Against Crime was game to really help promote that and try to help you get some co-sponsors on there. That first came out, I think the first time we put some information out about that was in January, actually, I believe. Yeah. And since then, there's been a couple more states that have gone constitutional carry across the country, right? What are we up to now?
Yeah, I think we're up to 18 now.
Wow.
Don't hold me to that, but I think we're at 18. Right. And FOAC has done a nice job, several different other gun groups as well. I think it's collaboratively working together, making sure that people are on the same page. And the interesting part of the gun community, I tell people all the time, I'm a big firearms guy. You can't get any more. The only person I've ever met in my life that's more pro-life than me is my wife. And although I'm not so sure she's always pro-life, like for me, but like in general pro-life. I'm an agriculture person. And one of the things that I get a little frustrated with is a lot of times these gun folks, pro-life folks, and agriculture people, there's a lot of this that goes on and fighting amongst themselves. We really got to knock those things out, and people need to understand that we're all trying to achieve the same mission, maybe sometimes in some different ways, but it's imperative that we work collaboratively, we work together in order to get the solutions done. But FOAC really helped write this legislation, put a lot of things in place with it. We're thankful for their hard work and Kim Stoll for their FOAC. Several other gun groups have been very involved. and pushing to get co-sponsors. Everybody has their niche in the things that they do. So I think it's collaboratively working together in order to achieve a goal, and understanding that, listen, we don't always agree on how we get to this end goal, but by gosh, we all want constitutional carry, right?
Right.
By gosh, we all want a better life for our farmers. By gosh, we all want to make sure that we're reducing the amount of abortions as much as humanly possible. So let's collaboratively work together in order to make those things happen.
Now, on the federal level, I mean, we've got probably within the next 4 years marijuana becoming legal. I'm assuming, with the way that that things are going on that level. I mean, we have it here in New York. Do you ever envision that once we get all 3 chambers back, that maybe it'll go the other way with guns too? Maybe it will be constitutional carry, because in my view, at the constitutional carry level of the federal government, it's never going to happen. And even if it did happen, then states like New York would say, screw you, because look what they're already doing with marijuana. Look what they're already doing.
I don't think that would ever work until each state individually went constitutional carry, in my opinion. I mean, should it work? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Constitution is pretty clear in the Second Amendment, but then you get into the whole states' rights issues. It's like, well, and you've said on the show too a lot, even if that passed federally, New York's not going to enforce it. So, right. Other states, we could probably list a handful of states that probably would do the same thing as New York. But I think if each state had constitutional carry, then the problem would fix itself. So this is where we have more impact. I think, Aaron, you're saying locally.
Maybe. I think it has to be a collaborative approach, right? I think, it's national reciprocity, probably at the federal level.
Right.
If I were to tell you what's more important, it's probably not constitutional carry. That's probably national reciprocity.
Yep.
That allows you to carry across, and the feds say you're allowed to do that. I think that's imperative. And that's probably, if you told me, hey, either constitutional carry or national reciprocity, guys, listen, I'll get rid of constitutional carry tomorrow. Okay. It's just that much more important. But I think it's us all working together in moving the boat, right? How I'm not, everybody wants a home run. And the interesting part, I actually used to, I'll throw myself back several years, but I helped in the athletic department at my high school. They had some issues there. We're trying to help and change it. And one of the things that we did was hire a softball coach. And I don't know if you've ever watched high school or college softball, but the goal in softball, in baseball, it's get guys on, hit home runs, shifts, all those different things, right? The goal in softball is to get somebody on first base. That's it. And then it's all a strategy about how to get them around the horn. A little bit different than baseball, right? Because there's a lot of hits, there's bunts, there's slap bunts, there's all these different things that they do. A lot of pop fly, like just really weird stuff that happens in softball. And I compare politics a little bit to softball of, we're just trying to get little incremental improvement as we go. And ultimately, guess what the end goal is? Getting that person around the horn into scoring home run. I anticipate the Pirates are going to win approximately 7 out of the 162 games.
Now you're being optimistic.
Oh,
yeah, I don't think it's going to be 7. We hit double digits, we might be in good shape.
Hey, so, last year there was a lot of pro-liberty legislation that did make it through both houses.
Yeah.
And then were struck down by the governor.
Yeah.
Now, I know that we actually made a little bit of headway in the last election in Pennsylvania with pro-gun people who took seats in office. How do we deal with Governor Wolf? Let's say constitutional carry gets through both the Assembly and the Senate. How do we get him to come on board with it? Or how do we override his veto? Is that possible?
Yeah, Klint, he's not gonna come on board with it.
Yeah.
But what is imperative is that we get a vote on the record, and we hold both Republicans and Democrats accountable to those votes at the ballot box. And if we don't have votes, we don't know. We only know what somebody says. And the one thing I've learned in my little more than 4 years in the House of Representatives in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is politicians tell you what they think you want to hear. And they're going to tell you one thing, and then, ceasefire, mommies with action or whatever their deal is another one. And they're going to tell you guys 2 separate things, right? So this holds them accountable to a vote, allows us then, when we get somebody that is pro-gun, to then call this vote up again, because we already know how they're going to vote, right? They voted last time, and then really puts them on the spot. So I think it's about holding politicians accountable. which you guys and I, I'm all for.
Yeah, I think Maj Toure put it well, and I'll paraphrase because I know your son's in the room, but basically he says
He just
politicians
stepped out, so you're good.
Oh, well, politicians are like that guy that's trying to get they'll tell you anything they want to tell you to you, and then they'll you.
Yeah, I use a little bit of different cleaner. I say I'm a big term limits guy.
Mhm.
I don't know where you guys are at on that, but big
Agreed.
Term limits are a great idea.
Agreed.
And I say politicians are like diapers. They both need changed often for the same reason.
That's so true.
Certainly.
So true. Yeah. I'll tell my students that, pay attention to the politicians, not just what they say, but what they do. Look at how they vote.
Yeah, and Matt, to that point, that's why it's imperative, because we don't know how they vote unless we force a vote. And that's why we got to force these votes. Listen, the governor's going to veto it. I know it, okay? Let me be clear. Constitutional carry is not going to become law while Governor Wolf is governor. I'm okay with that. But what I want is a vote in the House or in committee. I want to vote in the full House. I want to vote in committee in the Senate. I want to vote in front of the whole Senate, because now we can hold these people accountable for when we do get a pro-Second Amendment governor. Actually, I wouldn't even say a pro-Second Amendment governor. Maybe a governor that understands and has read the Constitution once or twice.
Yeah.
Right? So when we get one of those, then we already know where we're at on a vote count. We're going to be able to pass this thing day one. Boom, he's in there. Governor signs the thing on day one. After he's done with his little ball, and the band's playing and everything else, then he can come down here and sign our bills.
So who do you think is going to run for governor on the Republican ticket?
Oh gosh, who knows? Josh Shapiro is clearly the leader in the clubhouse for the Democrats. John Fetterman is clearly the Democrat leader in the United States Senate. I don't know if you saw, he just raised a ton of money today, and I think that it's imperative that we get good candidates.
Well, we'll see. We'll see who.
It's not
who
me,
steps
guys.
up.
I can tell you that.
I was going to say your name. I was going to be like, Bernstine.
So we've got
Matt. You might be in New York, but my wife will come and find you. The answer's no.
It's funny you say that, because my wife said the same thing. Clint and I get in these conversations, like somebody's got to do it, if not us, because we're foster parents. So it's always kind of that thought. And my wife said, don't even think about it.
Yeah, my wife will need a foster kid if you keep talking like that, because she's going to be, she'll kill me and then come find you and be in jail.
So we've got constitutional carry we're trying to push through. We also have Representative Ortite's replace PICs with NICs, or get rid of PICs, actually. A lot of people
it's not even a replacement, but remember, the same things that are looked at in PICs are already done in NICs. It's a duplicative system.
Yeah.
It's a system that really just doesn't make sense. Congratulations and all the hard work that Jason's done on that. He's a good friend of mine. He's actually considering running for governor. I'd fully support him with that.
Yeah.
As he goes down that path. But really good legislator, does an amazing job. Big fan of Jason Ortita.
So, and real quick on that, just so people understand, the PIC system is Pennsylvania specific, and the NIC system is the federal system that a lot of the states use, like New York. So some states actually have decided to do their own system, which actually hurts you guys more, because once the governor shut it was shut down and nobody could do any gun processes. But in New York, I was still processing gun orders and told the governor to go crap a bed. He couldn't do anything. They couldn't shut the system down because it's a federal system.
Right.
Yeah, and more on top of that, it's just a better system. It's a system that is more comprehensive, and a system that makes sure, I think we're all on here trying to make sure that we keep guns out of bad people's hands, and that does that.
Yeah, the PIC system too is just a big money suck, for one, and it whether it doesn't run efficiently or somebody somewhere in Pennsylvania State Police just randomly goes boop, turns it off, or whatever they do. It crashes all the time.
I mean, listen, I don't think it's about, somebody intentionally doing. I really don't. When we've looked at things, here's what I think it is. It's a state system that has a ton of data that is all really fed from national stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is that the state got, just from a scale ability, is not going to be able to do it in a manner technologically as the federal government is.
Fair enough. Yeah, definitely something.
I can't believe that I just said the federal government might do something better than the state.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
This is the only time.
when I've tried to
Only
educate
time.
people on that issue, people are like, we want to keep the feds out of it. Let's keep it in our own backyard. If there's going to be some background checks, then let's keep it in Pennsylvania, which I understand that sentiment. But as you mentioned at the beginning, it runs in tandem. It runs in.
Yeah, the feds aren't out of it anyway.
No, they're not.
Yeah, it just makes it so you might as well not spend the extra money, and you might as well not make it difficult for people to legally purchase firearms.
And so one of the other things we're looking at, and I'd like your comments on that, is getting disparity of force put into the Castle Doctrine. That's definitely something we want to try to get pushed through in the next legislative session, if that's at all possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an important piece. And once again, is that going to become law? The answer is no, but it's okay, guys. It is okay when we push things and work on things for them not to become law. This is a process that we work through. It's a process that's tedious. It's a process that's difficult. It's a process that is really frustrating sometimes. But we got to get votes on things to then, when we have when the stars align, that we're able to execute on those day one. And I don't want to have these conversations then. Okay, I want to be able to say, hey, we already got this passed last year. This passed. This passed. This passed. Veto, 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 veto. Now we got a governor that's not going to veto them. Let's run them all day one and get these things done.
It'd be like Biden's list of executive orders on day one.
Well, yeah, here's the difference. I think that, and this is a good example when you talk about, and I'm not a big fan of executive orders. And if you look back at what started in that, it was Bush 41 that did a bunch of executive orders. Okay. Then President Clinton did way more than Bush 41. Each other. Okay. Then Bush 43 did way more than Clinton. Then Obama did way more than Bush. Then Trump did more than Obama. Then Biden's doing more than Trump, right? So
actually, I think Biden did more than all the past 5 presidents.
Well, he did them originally, and a lot of that was, to be honest with you, he was prepared, not the prepared that I'd like him to be, but going in. He knew exactly what he wanted to do and wanted to achieve. Yeah. Okay. And a lot of those were just immediate revoking of the previous one.
Trump
so,
did.
I think in general, it's important that we work through the legislative process for that. Now, I'm sure if I was in the executive branch, I might think a little different.
So that brings up a good question, or a good talking point here. As we're staring down the barrel of gun control coming from the Pelosi administration and from the Biden administration and the Harris administration, what can we do locally when those gun bans come through, when those registrations come through, to protect ourselves and adhere to Article 1, Section 21 of the Pennsylvania Constitution?
Yeah, I think it's continuing to focus on these local elected officials, these district attorneys, the sheriffs, those types of things that are imperative. This upcoming election, we have a lot of those different positions that are already up for office. And understand, you got to know who's running. These are local people. You can even reach out to them and talk to them and find out where they stand on the issues.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing I'd say. I'm a big believer in you are who you surround yourself with. Look at who people surround themselves with. Look at what rallies they're at. Look at the things that they're doing publicly. Who's working on their campaign? What are those things? Because those are ultimately people. People typically surround themselves with folks that view the world in the same way that they do.
Well, it's awesome having you on, sir.
Hey, always great to spend good quality time with you guys. And I like the background there too, as well, with all the cool stuff you guys have in the background. But I have Coach Paterno in my background over here. So cool. The only thing I'd ask is people jump online. You can find me on Aaron Bernstine for State Representative. Email me directly. I answer all my own emails. A Bernstine, that's ABERNSTINE at PAHouseGOP.com. And feel free to reach out, talk about Second Amendment things, and or really anything else that's on your mind. And we'll keep fighting. We'll keep working our tail off and do the things that we need to do to make sure that not only the Second Amendment, but that the entire Constitution is followed and respected right here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Amen to that.
Well,
If
cool.
you ever have any other news or anything else you want to talk about and come back on, don't hesitate to ask. We're love to have you back on.
Thank you much, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Stay
Yes, sir.
safe.
Thank you, guys.
There's lots of sponsors that make this show possible, like Mountain Man Medical.
Check them out and give them your business.
This episode is brought to you by Steel City Ammunition. Can't find ammo? We've got it. We'll ship it and our prices are fair. Mountain Man Medical. The right medical training and gear should be accessible to every American. Mantis. Mantis X helps shooters suck less. Meet the Pressers is also generously supported by other fine companies, ranges, and our Patreon members. Thank you.
Thanks for watching or listening to our show.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, click that little bell thingy so you know when the next episode's uploaded. Support us on Patreon. Come to one of our classes. Host us to come to you and do one of our classes at your location.
And until next time.
Adieu.
Thank you for watching Meet the Pressers.